Ladies and gentlemen, it is February the 28th, 1:01 p.m. here on the west coast of the United States of America. I hope that you are doing well. My name is Arthur. This is the Apologia Center Tuesday live streams in which we allow folks to call in. And usually I have friends call in and we speak about stuff that we like and we enjoy. And so hopefully you're ready for this. Drop a little comment, hit that like button. Let me know what's going on as we get going. We are streaming on 3 different platforms. So we are live on YouTube, we're live on Facebook, and we're live on Twitch. Usually, not always, but usually. At some point in the streams, I stop the Twitch broadcast and the Facebook broadcast, and I encourage folks to jump on over to the YouTube broadcast. I was up till, I think, midnight last night, working on resolving the issues that I'm having with my software. And I did everything. I mean, everything. And uninstalled, reinstalled, everything. Right? But every once in a while, you happen to realize at the end of something that it's a very simple fix. And I think I've tested this on a private stream. At the very least, when it comes to the live broadcast, like putting out videos from YouTube and stuff like that, I was getting the audio through, so which is really, really good. So I'm hoping that that is the case, and we're not going to have to worry about this. So if that's fixed, I think I'm very, very sure that the interview issues that we were having is fixed, and you guys can call in. So I'm happy. Again, I tested this, and yeah. So Alpha, what's up, man? What's up, Carl? What's up, brother? How you doing? Okay, let's see. The same is true, by the way, for folks that are watching on Twitch or Facebook. So I will drop in the link. I will pin it. How goes it? What's up? From Twitch, ladies and gentlemen. Whoa, what happened there? From Twitch, what's up? Redeemed by Adonai. We are doing well. Hopefully you're doing well also. So that is the link to call in. And we'll pin that. The unique thing is having to pin all this stuff on every single platform. So I gotta get used to Twitch. Could have sworn there was a service that does that where it will mirror things like that. So yeah, my software does, we jump on all the platforms. By the way, go ahead and hit that like button. We'd really appreciate it because it does help with any one of the platforms. It always helps with the algorithm. So. You guys call in, I'll see the call-ins, by the way. If not, if there's anything specific that you might want to speak about, any questions you might have, let me know. I will address those as we get going here. Okay. finally getting settled, by the way, with all the stuff around me. So I don't think we need an iPad anymore. We will only use it in the case of where I would have to write something down and explain it to you guys. That every once in a while we'll do that. Shouldn't be an issue. Redeemed by Adonai says, I suppose not a salvation thing. It doesn't have to be a salvation thing, by the way. That's not necessarily. We usually speak about anything we want to speak about, but not a salvation thing. But are seraphim what are commonly considered today to be dragons? No. Seraphim in the Bible are divine entities, you can say, right? So, a second here. Carl, hang in there in the green room, and then we'll get to you. But they are divine entities, so I don't think it has anything to do with the way we look at dragons. They are serpentine sort of stuff. We see this in Isaiah 6. As a matter of fact, there's a really good video that Inspiring Philosophy did on seraphim and cherubim. I highly recommend you check that out on YouTube. Surprised Jerome isn't here yet. That's a good one. That's a good one. Let me bring in Carl here, and then we'll get on this. Everything should be working the way it's meant to be working. Carl, how you doing, bro? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Very well. You're coming in through loud and strong. I suppose the question should be to the audience. Hey, there's Jerome. Wow. There we go. What's up, Jerome? There we are. Okay, we can see you now. Ladies and gentlemen, please let me know if you guys can hear Carl loud and clear, because I've been working on this so hard. So Carl, say a couple
Hello,
words. Let's see if
testing
we
one,
can.
two, three. Hello. I see the chat.
Nice.
Yeah, coming in
You're
good.
coming in
All
thick.
right.
Excellent. So Carl, what's up, man? You rested? Did you sleep enough?
Yeah, definitely. Ever
Okay.
since we've been back and I've been on my own bed, I've been doing good.
Dude, man, it's been nuts. I've I mean, I was up late yesterday, but I really have enjoyed my sleep this last couple of days. It's very interesting, isn't it, when you're not in your own bed and how we get used to our own beds. Like your
Yeah,
body gets so
definitely.
used to your your bed. Creatures of habit, correct? Is that
hmm
we are?
So Arthur, give me one sec. Let me close my door. So I don't know if you remember when we were talking about study Bibles,
Uh-huh.
and I was saying that I think the ESV is really good, and you said the NIV is good too.
Mm-hmm.
I got it.
Nice. Congratulations.
I got the
Yeah.
the hardcover though. I saw Emil with his, and
Emil
I
had
went through it, and it's,
that leather awesome one, huh?
yeah, it's the genuine bonded leather, but it's awesome because like look at this, dude. I don't know if you can see this.
Yes.
It's amazing.
That's one of the, so my first Bible that I had as a Christian. So
Mm,
by the way, I don't consider just New Testaments the Bible. So the first thing I ever had was a New Testament that was given to me. But the first Bible I ever had was an NIV study
mm,
Bible. It was about that thick. I actually ended up giving that away to someone. I don't remember who I gave it to, but I was evangelizing to them, and then they told me that they didn't have a Bible. So I was like, "Here you go, you can have my Bible." And so uh, this was at community college, when I was at community college. I loved that study Bible, man. I grew so much reading that, and then a good aspect of it is the maps. And the scholarship on the NIV is pretty good. I mean, and the NIV gets trashed quite a bit.
yeah,
Even
I don't understand
yeah,
why all the hate. It's a
even
great book.
I've been known at times to say negative things about the NIV. Um, it really, I usually when I say negative things about any translation, that would be like context specific, as in what I want to get out of it, or it doesn't do the best of jobs or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I've studied, especially studying to teach and stuff like that, and then reading through commentaries and things of that sort, you come to realize quite a bit of really, really solid scholars worked on the NIV and then also recommend it over other translations. So no translation is perfect. And anybody who understands, well, unless you're King James onlyist, you're going to demand it's perfect. But that's a whole different issue you might have. But in regards to study notes, I think that the ESV is good.
Mm-hmm.
It just tends to be a little reformed for my taste. I've stopped using study Bibles, by the way, I should say. And I wouldn't consider the NET Bible that I use a study Bible. It's more like just words. But yeah, I mean, it's a great Bible. It's a great resource. You've been going through quite a bit, man, and you've been doing research. Like, we should have you be like a translation expert. Tell people.
Because I've
No, seriously, because you have a personality that kind of likes to dig into the details of things, and you've recently gone through, like, you're learning about hermeneutics quite a bit more. You're doing your reading.
mm-hmm.
Why don't you let people know kind of what you've discovered in this process?
So I think we spoke about it one time. It was in passing. It was very brief. That I used to be into like only formal translations. Functional equivalents have no. They're useless. They're the interpretation of some guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mark Strauss, for example, for the NIV, or someone else like Dan Wallace for the NET. You know, they're putting their words into the scriptures, but it's not that way. Um, so I'm more open to functional translations, but I'm only willing to go so far. Like I wouldn't read the NLT on a daily
Correct.
basis.
Well,
I'd
I
probably read
wouldn't
the
say.
NIV.
I actually would argue that NLT is not a translation.
Yeah, more of a paraphrase.
Correct. If
Yeah,
somebody
so
knows they're reading a paraphrase, that's fine. Like, you want to read it, read it. For me,
mhm.
like, definitely wouldn't preach out of the NLT. I don't think anybody should preach out of the NLT. I don't think anybody should preach out of the Message. I've seen pastors preach out of the Message, and you just like, I shrivel inside.
But the NIV is really good. There's a lot of places. I don't know. After watching Mark Strauss's video and reading this book, actually,
Yeah,
everybody needs to read this book. Everybody needs to read it. Every new Christian,
okay.
every old Christian, they need to
I
read
would
this
say
book.
every atheist needs to read that book too.
Yeah, definitely.
Look, and this is not a dig at Jerome and Sapere Aude, or token atheists in the chat, but because we appreciate them quite a bit, because they're very generous in discussion, and
Hmm.
then just overall great guys. One of the issues that I've had with atheists quite a bit is contextual arguments when it comes to the text
Hmm.
of the Bible and hermeneutics. Like, and so if folks actually do their due diligence and study on how the Bible is supposed to be studied or interpreted, kind of all the stuff that goes into it, you can disagree at the end. For me, that's not an issue. I mean, it's an issue in the sense that I want you to be saved and go to heaven, but at least know kind of what the issue is. So yesterday, somebody left me a comment. I'll just to show you guys. On one of my videos, somebody left a comment and disagreeing with me, and my response was kind of like, "Cool, disagree with me, but you know what you're disagreeing with, right?" So this individual, I think it's a she, I don't know, said, "I think the Jews and I made a video about whether Jews, Muslims, and Christians worship the same God. It's like a short.
Okay.
And this person wrote, I think the Jews and Muslims worship the same God, but Christians, not really, since they add two more essences to the oneness of God." So my response was false. God is one in essence, three in persons. If you're going to disagree, please know what you're disagreeing with. Right? And I would just say generally when people come like, oh, the Bible teaches this, Christians should be doing this. Like, here's a good one when I talk to folks who are like really into the LGBTQ kind of thing, and especially arguing that the people who believe in the Bible should support it, is when they say things like, well, it says you shouldn't eat shellfish. Right. And I'm like, oh, like don't give me weak arguments like that, right? Because from the get go, it shows me that you haven't spent 30 minutes thinking about
Mhm.
contextual interpretation of hermeneutics or something like that. So yeah. So what would you recommend right now? Would you recommend the NIV? I know you're a big LSB fan.
I love. Okay, my number one top favorite is the LSB because
Why?
I,
Yeah.
I, I well I grew up with the King James. Well, I grew up with the yeah the when I was going to CAC, my first church, I grew up with kind of the King James that was available everywhere, and they had some copies, and I took one, and I was reading that. Then I went to the New King James, and I'd been using that for like forever. And then one of my friends recommended the NASB. He said it's very accurate. So I went to the NASB 95, and I've been using that for like ever since, up until the LSB came out.
Hmm.
And then I joined your church. You guys using the ESV? Okay, maybe I
Not
should look
my
at the
church.
ESV.
Doesn't belong to me.
Oh yeah, Anchor Church. And then I don't know. I'm really gonna offend a lot of people, but I don't like the ESV that much. I don't think it
That's
has a,
interesting.
like it's not literal and it's not functional. It's like
Correct. It's in the middle.
pick one. Yeah, it's like
That's
pick.
partly why I like it so much.
But I don't know. It's just I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
it's okay. So
so what about the CSB? I
what
mean, you
would
mentioned the CSB, I
this the
think.
CSB? Look, I feel like if you're gonna go CSB, I think I have one of those too. Just go with the NIV. You're better off with the NIV, or if you
Interesting.
want, because it's trying to be, it leaves things out like hold fast, you know, where I don't think the NIV does things like that. Like it'll say something else instead of hold fast,
So let me ask
like
you a
hold
question.
strong or something. Yeah,
You were born in the United States, right?
that's
Or
correct.
yeah, you went to elementary school here, and were you a pretty decent student in school?
I was, but I had a philosophy of when I'm at home, there's no such thing as homework. When I'm at school, it's your time. When I'm at home, it's my time. So I didn't do my homework,
Okay.
but I did pass my tests.
Yeah,
If
yeah. But the reason why I ask is because I learned English I mean, I moved to the States when I was 11. I think I
Mhm,
actually got like a pretty decent hold of the language by eighth, ninth grade.
mhm,
Okay. Like, I'm not talking like basics, right? Like, it took me, it was very easy for me to learn all the basics. I watched a bunch of cartoons, I learned all the basics. Um, in regards, like, I think I came here, I sat half of fifth grade, and then I did all of sixth grade, which was pretty tough. I mean, that was like the whole process of learning English was I learned English in the sixth grade. And then seventh grade was okay. I remember they put me in a class. I think it was in seventh grade. They put me in a class and they had to pull me out because I was just like really, really struggling and suffering in that class. Um, it was an English class, and but I would say like just ninth grade I was flying. Eighth grade was pretty decent, but ninth grade I was flying. Um, but still, my English was pretty weak, and then I didn't read a lot in high school. Like I think I read maybe three and a half books in all of high school.
mhm.
Maybe four and a half. I don't know. There was a book I read just on my own that wasn't required reading. It's called what was it, man? Triangle of Death, I think. It's like the thickest book I had read at the time. It had to do with the DA agent and stuff. But I read half of The Great Gatsby and the Fahrenheit book. I forget whatever. So the reason why I say is I became a Christian and they gave me a Bible. It was an NIV Bible, and it was pretty good because my English wasn't that strong.
Mhm.
Now, my Armenian wasn't that strong for me to fall back and read an Armenian because I had like a third, fourth grade education level in Armenian. So I couldn't read the Armenian Bible. But the NIV was great. Like if I had picked up the NASB at the time I became a Christian, I would have really, really struggled and suffered. So the reason why I'm saying this is because I think it has quite a bit to do with your education level
Mhm.
or your skill as an English speaker, right? Um, because somebody doesn't know English very well. Like I've told people to read the NLT because their English was so bad. And I like our parents probably like my mom reads her Bible in Farsi because her Farsi is stronger than her Armenian or her English. Right. So
Yeah, same here.
yeah, it's kind of complicated in regards to the persons, like, yeah, I might have an ideal translation. I might might want someone to read, but I might preach out of. But it's like, I have this friend who says that his dad, whenever people ask him which translation they should read, his dad says any translation, because reading is a lot better than not reading.
Right.
So, like, at the end of the day, that's true, right? But what was your English like? Like, what was it, or has it been kind of very strong, so you've been able to deal with more difficult translations?
I don't want to brag, but so I ended up going to continuation school because I skipped school when I was younger. I would ditch and stuff. And when you have something like that, it's not, it doesn't matter if your grades are okay. They're gonna send you to continuation school. And so what I did is I dropped out of that and I went to GCC and I got my GED from there.
Yeah.
When I graduated from with my GED, they gave me a bunch of English awards because English is my strongest
Yeah. Subject.
subject. But you can't really make money off of it, so I didn't do anything. Like I didn't become a writer. You have to sell so many books to make money.
Yeah.
And what am I going to write? Fiction books? So I didn't go down that path, but my English is pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially like my written English is a lot better than my spoken English.
Awesome. Yeah.
Um,
Because I remember picking up oh man, I was at like a used bookstore or something like that. And I picked up a copy. It was like $1, so that's why I bought this. It was a copy of the Odyssey, I want to say.
mhm.
Now I have both the Odyssey and the Iliad sitting there, and I read maybe the introduction of that book, and I put it down because the translation was so difficult. Now you got to. This is classical Greek that's being translated, right? And I was like, oh, and it was weird because I'd been reading the Bible for years, and I was like, oh man, like Arthur, duh, like you're gonna have different translations, like better like it's the same exact thing. It's in regards to translating something like the Odyssey or the Iliad, it's gonna be the same exact thing in regards to translating the New Testament. Like, what kind of a translation do you want? Do you want a dynamic equivalency translation or a literal translation? And what I had gotten in my hands was a literal translation, and it was just so dry and so like, ugh. And maybe even an older translation. It was an older translation, so the English was a bit more kind of heavy. So it was, or not heavy. I just something I'm not used to. But again, it's like, do we deal with this stuff with translations quite a bit? Let me jump into some comments here
Okay.
because I think some of them are directed towards you. Don't get offended.
Can I respond to Jerome's?
Jerome said, "Is this the guy who said there are no atheists and that we are all suppressing the truth?"
Yeah, that's me.
That's right, Jerome. He's not scared to show his face. By the way, I saw that
Right.
comment about Liverpool. Not yet, brother. Not yet. That is him. That's all we're gonna say. Moving on.
Yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
that is me. What else is there? We know we read books. Me and Arthur read.
No,
Arthur reads more than me.
he wrote that's a joke.
Oh, I was about to say we read so many books.
He said, what did he say? Where is it?
Neither of you read books
He wrote,
normally. That
neither of you.
explains.
Well, it's a question, I guess he's asking. That was just weird, Jerome. Neither of you read books normally. That explains why you are Christians. Like,
Oh
are
yeah,
you
it says that.
asking us whether we read books normally or not? Well, it depends what you mean by normally. I tend to suffocate myself by being in like 5 books at the same time.
Yeah.
And burn out at times. But yeah, he said okay. And before that gets out of hand, that's a joke.
Your beard is definitely better than mine.
Mine.
I got swept.
Well, me and Jerome have a bet that if Liverpool doesn't make top 4, then I gotta shave my beard.
All right, I want to see that.
Yeah, that'll be in May. Well, let's hope they get top 4 so I don't have to shave it, Carl. Don't be with the atheist guy.
I want to see you with that facial hair.
If they do get top 4, Jerome's gonna have to come on here live and apologize to everyone.
Okay.
So that's the deal. I haven't forgotten about it. So Redeemed by Adonai from Twitch says, connotation, getting lost has been the only thing, but I definitely recommend ESV, NIV if it'll make it easier for folks to read. I don't know what you mean,
Yeah.
like connotation in regards to like Hebrew or things. Yeah, I mean, look, I would say actually the thing that is the most difficult to translate is, and why am I forgetting the word for this? Like things like euphemisms. There's another one I'm forgetting, but
Idioms.
idioms. There you go. Idioms are like very difficult to translate. And because we might not have a one-to-one correlation in our language, or even a historical kind of thing. Like it was just something they were using in agricultural society, and we're not an agricultural society. But again, if you do your study, you should do well. Emil's in the house. What's up, Emil? By the way, guys, if more people want to call in, you can. Like I can have up to I think 8 or 10 people live.
Wow.
So
yeah, if you want to read the ESV, read the ESV. I
Jerome said
actually
you're
have it.
wrong.
I
I'm not
haven't.
doing suppression. Not knowingly, at least.
By the
Maybe.
way, in regards to presuppositionalism, I'm a presuppositionalist in the way that in my the framework I use, not just apologetically, just for my whole life.
Correct. Correct.
I'm presuppositional, and I use evidence in a presuppositional framework. I don't assume that we're standing on neutral ground, which is one of the presuppositional precepts. I assume that we're both biased. I'm biased to to the Christian worldview. He's biased to the non-Christian worldview, or whatever worldview he holds. So I wouldn't start off saying, but it was I don't remember what the question was exactly. It was like, why does God hide himself or something, or why is he hidden?
Yeah, I think that's
And
what I
I
heard.
think the Bible, yeah, the Bible would I would say it's self-evident. His existence is self-evident.
Yeah. Well, at the
But yeah,
very least, we can argue that the Bible assumes God's existence.
yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah, and I don't think you need necessarily to be a presuppositionalist to say that.
Right. Oh, you don't have to be presuppositionalist to use presuppositional arguments. In the same
Correct.
way, you don't have to be an evidentialist to use evidential arguments.
Correct.
I think evidential arguments are very powerful, but for someone who knows a lot, like a philosopher, I think presuppositionalism would make sense to him. Where when you see in debates presuppositionalists talk, or even Alvin Plantinga has this video on naturalism defeated. If you listen to what he says and then you listen to the questions that the audience is asking, they completely misunderstood what he was saying. So I think this kind of goes over most people's heads, where the evidential arguments make more sense to the layperson. I wouldn't use presuppositional apologetics with some dude on the street.
It's a talk he's giving in public.
I don't. I can
It's okay.
text it to you if you
An
want.
evolutionary argument against naturalism. No, I read
Yeah.
the paper. But there's one on Veritas Forum. By the way, those who don't like, or those who like, there's a really, really cool channel called Closer to Truth.
Oh.
Do you know this?
Yeah, I've watched like everything on there. William
Yeah,
Lane Craig, Alvin
yeah.
Plantinga,
But the
everything on.
dude that does the interviewing, I'm forgetting his name. The guy with the mustache. He's not a believer, as far as I know. He's like
hmm
probably agnostic, but he is such a good interviewer. Like he does such a good job interviewing people, and he's very fair. He's fun to talk to. He'll be like, he'll throw out these kind of, hey, but Craig, come on, man. Like, you really expect people to believe that? And he goes beyond just like Christian folks, right? Like what I'm looking at it. 3
Oh
weeks
yeah,
ago, he interviewed Noam Chomsky. Can't believe Noam Chomsky's still around.
he does
But
philosophers too on
correct.
realism and idealism, which is
Yeah.
where I got most of my info from. I think his
Yeah.
name is Thomas Kuhn.
Yes,
I think
it
I
is.
think
Yes.
Thomas Kuhn is his
Yes.
name.
Yeah. If you're Armenian, he has an unfortunate last name. I'm not going
Oh,
to get into the details of that. Let's just say it's not a nice word.
yeah, it's bad.
So Jerome said, well, of course you would say that. Yeah, I don't know what you're referring to. The caller probably doesn't know who Liverpool's best player is. He probably doesn't. He doesn't watch soccer. He
Yeah,
just
I don't know any.
for the first time, he played FIFA with us on this retreat, and you liked it.
Yeah, it's a fun game, but
Yeah.
it's a video game. It's different
Yes.
than
Correct.
playing in real life.
Yeah. By the way,
Huffing and puffing when you're
my
halfway.
older son, Jerome, for you, my older son, who's turning 9 in March, is thinks Liverpool's best player is James Milner. Tells you the quality of my son. Appreciates high quality players. Let's see. Jerome is like taking over the chat alone, just spamming.
This is Muhammad.
Well, of course you would say that. Yes, we would. So Jerome says that's because people don't really change their minds via a priori reasoning most of the time. This is why you don't learn about precept in philosophy of religion classes. I'm not
I don't
sure
know if
whether
that's
that is like you would conclude like this is why you don't learn about it. That's ascribing motive as to stuff, and I'm not very sure about that. Yeah, I don't know if you have anything to say.
Bro, you really have to interview Eli Ayala. I think he
Yeah,
would
that'd be nice.
lay to rest so
I
many.
would like to have Eli on. I'll probably reach out to him and just interview him. I don't want to have a debate
And
with him, but I
he's
would just
really
like to interview him.
chill. He's really like chill. He's not gonna, you know, he's a
Fuck.
nice guy.
I just saw a comment that Buck put up. That's not the one. Good news, everyone. Drinking soda gives you larger testicles and more testosterone. Buck, I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, Tom Khachaduri says it's Mohamed Salah. Tom, but when we played FIFA, Tom, you and I, Darwin Nunez was the one that was lighting it up. We got to say that, right? Jerome said FIFA is different from real life. Damn, I didn't know that. Seems like a personal problem for you, Jerome. It might be why you're an atheist. You can tell the difference between reality and not reality.
Might be an idealist.
Yeah, you might. Yeah, I mean, inspiring philosophy is.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, he's probably modified.
At top level for long. I know, dude. The guy's a machine. When I look at Milner, I feel convicted. The guy's 38 years old, so he's my age. Well, I'm turning 38. He's a bit older, and he is just ripped. And he's been playing professional soccer since he was 16. Like, he made his professional debut at 16, which is insane for you to be playing for such a long time at a professional level for like really, really good teams continuously. And he just takes care of his body really, really well. Okay, enough soccer talk. Sorry, I'm still at work, just listening mostly, so you're stuck with just Jerome. But we want to balance it out with your like just kindness.
Jerome is not
Buck
bad,
said,
bro.
Buck said this was in today's news. Well, I don't know whether it's just weird, man. Like, it's one of these. I can already see the headline, right? Like, scientists discover soda is good for you. Like, we've been telling you soda's bad for you, and it has all these really bad aspects of it. But here's what it will do. It will give you more testosterone. I don't know how true that is, man. Whatever. So Jerome says, I don't think that precept is well respected in philosophical academia because these arguments are not motivating. That's my guess anyways. You might be right about that.
I don't care if something's respected.
Correct.
99% of the people cannot respect something. It doesn't mean it's false.
Correct.
You know, so I mean, nowadays, I mean, I don't know what your perspective is on it, but I think Christianity is not very well respected either. It doesn't mean it's false.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's saying that. I don't think he's making a conclusion, therefore it's false. And that would be
You're just
just
saying the arguments
a wrong.
aren't.
Yeah, the thing. I think there is something to be said, not whether something is true or false, but there is something that should be said about whether a lot of people believe something or not. Again, I'm not. It's not like a lot of people believe it, therefore it's true. That's not what I'm arguing for. But if there's a consensus on something, I think at the very least, people should look at it more seriously.
I don't know if
Would
I
you
like that.
disagree?
Yeah, I don't know because a lot of people don't make their decisions based on
Yeah, let's
rationality.
forget that.
They're
Let's just forget that.
irrational
No,
and
I'm talking about like, yeah, I don't mean like a lot of people in the general public. Um, you're right. No, okay, I should have rephrased that maybe. If you have a lot of quote unquote, wow, I was gonna say skeptics.
academics.
No, not academics, experts,
Mhm.
right? Whatever that means. Um, I think it makes a lot of sense to look at it with a closer kind of investigative sense.
Yeah, but wouldn't they say, we have the consensus is that people don't rise from the dead. The consensus is water doesn't change to wine. People can't
Yeah,
walk
but
on
it's not.
water.
It's not like the consensus amongst Christians is that water changes into wine and people rise from the dead left and right.
No, but
I
but
would
that
agree with
Jesus
them.
did that.
Yeah, what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Yeah, the Christians would agree with that, and we'd say, "Duh, that's why it's so special." I mean, if people were rising from the dead left and right, it wouldn't be special. Like the opposite of that would be special, right? Like staying dead. like the again, the idea. I mean, that's a good pushback by folks that don't agree and say, "Hey,
Mhm.
the consensus is, or like whatever general human experience is X, Y, and Z." I'd say, "Yeah, you're right. It is that. That's why this event is such a special event."
But I don't think it logically follows that therefore. I
It's
mean,
true.
what I think the logical conclusion is this argument was persuasive, or this thing that the consensus believes is persuasive. It doesn't
Correct.
mean,
I'm just
but
saying
yeah,
I'm taking a very weak position on it, which is it should be looked at closer,
mhm,
and then you can evaluate like is there counter arguments to this thing? Are the counter arguments better or not? So
right.
what are the presuppositions that go into this kind of an argumentation? Um, like people will bring up usually when it comes to like New Testament studies and stuff, people will bring up like Bart Ehrman, for example.
Mhm.
And they'll go like, look, Bart Ehrman, who's an expert on the subject, is an atheist. And I'm like, okay, is Bart Ehrman an atheist because the evidence in the Bible shows that atheism is true? It's like Bart Ehrman doesn't say that. Bart Ehrman says that he has philosophical reasons as to why he thinks atheism is true, or at the very least agnosticism, and it has to do with the problem of evil. So it's not the biblical data that's leading them to conclude that this stuff's all fake and false, even though he has certain views when it comes to authorship and dating and all that stuff. Like I get it, but he has
But
another
I
argument.
don't like the argument of, oh, there's a smart scholar who believes this.
Correct.
Okay, I can name a bunch of Dan Wallace, Mark Strauss. What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. It just means that these people are scholars. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
their
Look,
conclusions are
this takes
accurate.
us into a completely different area, which I'm not the expert on it. Um, Maybe one of these days I'll have an expert come on and I can speak about them. But it's called disagreement amongst epistemic peers. It's essentially when people have the same kind of information given to them and when they disagree on their conclusions and what that looks
Mhm.
like. It's a really fun area of thinking and study, but in epistemology.
Interesting. Okay, so
Um,
there is something.
yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
something
There's a
there.
whole, I was, there was an elective when I was in seminary to take on that, and I really wanted to, but it didn't work out. But the professor who taught it is a very good friend. And I got to have him on. I've reached out, but he's traveling. There's a book thing he's doing. He's written a book. He's co-authored a book on the NAR movement. And so I'm waiting for him to get back. Maybe we'll interview him on that, and then we'll interview him on the philosophy stuff some other time. But yeah, let me jump into some of these. Lowell Christianity is very well respected in academia. What are you on about? Yeah, we'd have to sit and I don't know whether he's joking or not. Thank you, Arthur. That's what I'm saying about consensus. Can't believe we agree again. Jerome, you're going to end up becoming a Christian at the end of this stuff, man. We're going to agree so much that you're just going to be like, yeah, I agree with Jesus. I agree with Arthur. Jesus resurrected from the dead. Praise God, man. Jerome was saying that because Carl said the comment about laymen not being a good target for precept apologetic arguments because they go over their heads.
Yeah, because I said it's precept doesn't really work against laymen because they don't understand the argument. And he's like, okay, but even those who are more educated don't like the argument.
Yeah.
Or they don't, what do you say? He used something else. It's not persuasive enough because these arguments are not motivating. I don't know what that means though.
Yeah, let me make a point in regards to epistemology because essentially this is epistemology conversation rather than like it's not necessarily a religious one per se. Okay. It's an epistemology conversation in this sense that we in philosophy and epistemology we have foundationalism, we have coherentism, we got some other forms of other things, but predominantly those are the two that get argued, right? And you can make a case for what is commonly called presuppositionalism from a purely like even a non-religious one, that this is the mode of operation when it comes to knowledge for humanity, for like thinking beings. I would say maybe it might be like you can go two ways. You can go the route of foundationalism in the sense of like I think what Alvin Plantinga does, and then he deals with what's commonly called reformed epistemology, where he says, hey, they're just brute facts. That's just the reality. Like we are born knowing a bunch of stuff, and then we reason out of that, right? Or you can go with some kind of a coherentist argument where everything is kind of like web-like connected to one another in regards to knowledge. But you can build a case, and the case can be pretty strong. Now, my issue is this personal issue when it comes to some of this stuff. It has to do with like ontology and epistemology, access to knowledge, and the existence of the knowledge or something like that. But yeah, it is well respected, I would say. It's not well respected with the way that it's presented, I think, within Christian apologetics and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%.
But the ideas exist generally within the philosophical conversation. Let's.
It's I don't like this comment though. I completely disagree with it. Jerome Robinson. Yeah, I can somewhat respect
There's
evidentialist.
a lot of stuff. Jerome's talking a lot.
It says I can somewhat respect evidentialist arguments for theism or Christianity, but you can read respected scholars in the field of philosophy of religion, but not apparently for precept apologetics. I can give you like 5 books off the top of my head for precept apologetics. Yeah, I probably should right now. There's Jason Lyle, which is the most basic book, The Ultimate Proof of Creation. There's Greg Bonson, Always Ready. There's John M. Frame, Cornelius Van Til's. He compiled everything from Cornelius.
I would say Frame is probably the best presuppositionalist philosopher right now.
Yeah, still alive. Yeah, he's probably the most. He has the most knowledge on it. I mean, there's so many books you can get from Bonson, Frame, and most of the stuff is Van Til. There's tons of content available, and he's not the only one. Like James White does some things on presuppositionalism. What's the other one? Apologia Studio, Apologetic Studio. I forgot what their name is. With Jeff Durbin, they do a bunch of precept stuff.
He means like he means in the sense of like academic scholars. But again, I think John Frame is solid. So let me actually see something here. Looking something up.
Yeah, but who defines what a respected scholar is?
Well, I think he means
it's your opinion.
Folks who are holding like PhD degrees and like generally in the philosophy world are involved in academic debates and things of that sort. So like Craig would be a good example of this because Craig writes heavy philosophy apart from his apologetic work for Christians, right? Craig writes philosophy stuff where other like believers and unbelievers have to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Well, he it looks like he clarifies though. He says you can find them, but not in the same quality or quantity.
Maybe so.
But
Maybe
so
so.
what? I mean, the quality. I don't think the quality is less.
One of the things I would say, Carl, is that usually just this happens with academia is that ideas come, they're like fads. It's ideas are very much like fads. They come in and out of popular consumption. And that think okay, I'll give you a perfect example. Relativism,
Mhm.
right? So in the early to sorry, mid to late 2000s, in right, like 2005 to 2010, 11, um relativism was like in your face everywhere. Now that was commonly called postmodernism or postmodernism,
Mhm.
um, but it was also very popular in the 70s. But it was also popular like 2,500 years ago, right? Like you can read ancient Greek philosophers who are essentially arguing for postmodernism. They're arguing for relativism. Um, so ideas are sort of like that. Um, Whenever people say like a consensus, I kind of wanted. That's partly why I like the history of philosophy a lot as well, because it gives you a nice framework to say, oh wait, this stuff a bunch of people are saying was popularized, say, in the 3rd century. And it's the same way when it comes to Christian philosophy and apologetics. Like, for example, presuppositionalism. A lot of people go, oh, Cornelius Van Til. And
Mhm.
I look at it and I'm like, Anselm of Canterbury, right? Because Anselm, at least in the ontological sense, establishes this stuff in the greatest conceivable being, right?
All
Like the
right. The
ontological
ontological
argument for God's
argument.
existence. And
Mhm.
and so now I don't think Ansel was trying to develop a sort of argument, maybe the way Van Til was, but it's there. Parts of it, a good amount of it, is there that people can draw upon and then argue for, or something like that. And then you see things like notable philosophers throughout the centuries using each other's ideas, obviously, but nothing's what was it? I think this was it was either Malcolm Muggeridge or why am I forgetting his name? G.K. Chesterton, who said,
Mhm.
all new news is old news happening to new people. So,
I think that is Chesterton. Yeah,
yeah,
that sounds
sounds
like
like
something you'd say.
Chesterton.
Yeah.
and um, and so that's the thing, is like people come up with this, like, oh, I discovered this idea. It's like, okay, cool, bro. Let's look at it. It's like you discover
I
some
mean,
guy.
I think even in Ecclesiastes, Solomon says there's nothing new under the sun.
Correct, correct.
You
So
know.
people want me to do a study of Ecclesiastes from a philosophical perspective. So that should be interesting. Let me jump into some comments that have been made here and folks that have jumped in. Anchor Church is in the house. What's up, Anchor Church? Whoever you are. Jerome is shocked. Jerome, you're not the only person that would be shocked about becoming a Christian. I think Carl would have been shocked in becoming a Christian a number of years ago. Would you have made that face if somebody said you're going to become a Christian, Carl?
No, I would say no. I'm probably never gonna become a Christian.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Maybe we should make a bet on the outcome of that as well, Arthur. Maybe you should shave your beard again if I convert. Dude, I'll throw a party if you become a Christian. Shaving the beard might not. We will at our church welcome you with a great feast if you become a
Oh,
Christian.
definitely.
Great Armenian feast. I think it is David, guys. Pastor Dave's with the Anchor Church account. Tom said, Jerome, we spoke about you at camp. By the way, we also prayed for you at camp.
Hmm.
Jerome said, read the next comment, please. I didn't say that. I don't know what that was a reference to, but okay. I made sure to be quick about clarifying that comment, but I was still slow somehow. It's okay, man. Camp, what camp? It wasn't camp. It was a retreat. We had a men's retreat, guys, this weekend we were on in Big Bear in the snow. Why are random Christians speaking about me? Because we love you, man. This is a pretty good point. He said, "I wonder why Arthur thinks you'll become a theist from the two of you agreeing rather than him becoming an atheist." That's a good one. It's because along with what I believe, I have a great deal of hope.
And you got good arguments.
Tom said, "We spoke to God about you." What was said? I'll let Tom answer that. Internet Christians and atheists, which is what we are technically, by the way. We're on the internet and we're Christians and atheists. But I get what you're saying. Internet Christians and atheists think of Darth Dawkins when they hear the term presuppositionalism.
Who's Darth Dawkins?
It's Richard Dawkins. Just doing it. Yeah, again, man, like Dawkins is not who I would prefer to deal with when it comes to atheism. I know plenty of folks, popularize kind of stuff, but it's not. But
there was one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there was one atheist though who I think was very formidable. I think his name is Jeffrey J. Lauder. That guy was really good. He and Frank Turek a while back, like I think it was over 10 years ago, did a debate, and I think he did a really good job. I mean, so I think debates are if someone is more fun, like in the debate is funnier, it gets the audience's attention more. Usually, the audience feels like he won, which is Frank Turek.
Sorry, yeah,
he's way more entertaining. But
yeah,
Jeffrey J. Lauder is really strong.
Yeah, the thing is that when it comes to debates, I mean debates are fun, but that's about it because there's a lot more that goes into a debate other than the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said in the past, we are not robots for you to input information and we spit out a conclusion or something. There's a lot more goes into why people believe or disbelieve. Jerome said, but ontological arguments seem completely different from what precepts are trying to do, though. That's correct. They don't really seem they're comparable in the ontological sense. What the presuppositionalist goes on to do is make claims when it comes to the epistemological sense, the access to the knowledge. Saad says R.C. Sproul has a good series on Ecclesiastes. Ooh, I should check that out. I should check that out as I'm doing that Ecclesiastes thing, R.C. Sproul. But I have like a certain view of Ecclesiastes that maybe, I don't know. Because I've read like a number of guys that could potentially be deemed, I wouldn't deem them, but some people would call them liberals when it comes to, like, I'm not very convinced whether Solomon wrote Ecclesiastes. Quite a bit of like conservative scholars would say conservative wrote it. Sorry, they said Solomon wrote it. Conservative scholars would say Solomon wrote it. I would prefer to say it might possibly be Solomon's ideas. It might be a student of Solomon. But yeah, I mean, I just call the writer of Ecclesiastes Koleth, because that's the teacher, the preacher, that's the way he's introduced in the book. Okay, moving on. Saad said, we will all shave our beards if Jerome becomes a Christian. Bro, that's a big deal because we have a lot of bearded people in our church.
I'll do it.
Pastor Dave wouldn't worry about that. That dude shaves every other day. We got to get him to grow a beard, man. Saad said that's almost every guy at our church. Correct. Oh, no, Darth Dawkins is someone else. Okay. Darth Dawkins is an internet personality that does debates and argues for precept Christianity. He's super toxic and lots of people hate him. I have no idea who this is. I gotta look this guy up.
I gotta check this out. Yeah.
Oh man. I don't like that sort of toxicity from Christians or non-Christians, by the way. It's just annoying. Darth Dawkins versus Matt Dillahunty. It seems like they found each other pretty well. I'm guessing this guy never shows his face. Sorry, I was just super confused.
Looks like he's spoken to Pine Creek too.
Probably. That's probably where the guy's known from. Yeah, I don't know. I can't comment on this, but I'm just like personality-wise, I don't like being annoying, and I don't like others being annoying for me. I don't care. To me, I don't care whether the person's a Christian, atheist, Buddhist, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It's like, don't be annoying. Don't be annoying. What? Don't be annoying? Jerome says, praying for what reason? Well, we're just praying for you, man. If you know Christians that are very openly trying to convert you, like I am, if they're not praying for you, then they're not doing their job, Jerome.
Ooh, this is good.
Yeah, I'm jumping through. Hang on, don't. You're ahead of me in the comments. He's a Christian. Okay, super toxic. Is putting it. Jerome said super toxic is putting it lightly, honestly. Oh wait, Arthur, my top favorite apologists list changed. Now it's McDowell, number 1, Turek, number 2, you, number 3, etc. That's not a bad crowd to be a part of, by the way.
McDowell's really good.
McDowell's cool. Askia Jones says, I think the Darth Dawkins he's referring as a precept apologist that spends a lot of time on Clubhouse. I think I've heard this guy on Clubhouse. Okay. By the way, I should stream. I have the ability to stream Clubhouse conversations. Man, I should do that. Ashley says, yes, Ecclesiastes study. Yes, yes, yes. Ashley, let me ask you a question. Because it's your idea. How would you feel about that being behind the paywall? Meaning it would just be for patrons. Like, so I'm already planning on doing a Bible study for Patreon folks, a weekly study. And if I combine those, because I don't want to do like 8 different studies, it's just like overwhelming studying wise. I'm already doing other studies and studying to teach Ecclesiastes and studying to teach all the other stuff I teach. Might be heavy. So let me know. It's your idea, Ashley. Let me know what you think about that. Can't believe there exists a group of Christians over an ocean away from me who think that I need divine intervention requested at a hidden camp. It wasn't hidden. It was pretty public that we were there, that I don't know about. That's funny, you know. Well, people who don't even know you care about you. Isn't that cool? He said, oh, you might regret looking him up. Can't really stomach the rhetoric and toxicity
I just saw
myself.
that.
Which one?
They regret looking him up.
Yeah. Look, you guys know my personality by now, so. What up, Cody? How you doing, man? Week's been good, man. We were stuck in Big Bear for a day. And if we didn't get down the mountain when we did, I think we're going to be stuck up there till March 4th. By the way, we went to Big Bear, not planned in the sense of when, meaning that we wanted to go there during a blizzard. But we went to Big Bear. We planned it out a couple months ago, and then we went up there. And then we ended up being in the biggest winter storm in Big Bear in like history. what were they calling it? Snowmageddon or something? Snowmageddon? Something like that. That's what Khachik wrote. So it was insane. There was, I don't know, how many feet of snow was there? Do you remember, Carl?
There was like a lot.
Did
I
you
mean,
go on that walk?
you would
Did you go on that walk with the
no.
guys? Oh man, because they were saying it was insane. I mean, the pictures are
There
easy
are
six. I
places,
think easy 6 feet of snow.
yeah. There are places you would put your foot and your whole leg would disappear in the snow.
Well, I saw
It
places
was a
where
lot.
the like more than half of the door entrance to a store was all snow.
Wow.
So that was like a good 6-7 feet of snow. When we went to the village, a lot of the stores were closed. There's like one coffee shop we found where we can go in there and get chocolate, hot chocolate. That was pretty good.
All right, bro, I should get going. I want to give someone else an opportunity to
All
hop
good,
on
man.
here.
Thanks for calling in.
Mhm.
See you.
Let me say one last thing though,
Go for it.
if that's okay. So everybody get the NIV Study Bible, and you're not going to regret it. The vast majority of people would benefit from it. So
Thank you.
no problem. I guess I'll stay in the chat. I'll see you guys later.
See you.
All right, bye.
The Facebook stream is coming to an end. We'll keep the Twitch stream on for a bit longer. Jerome said, no, I don't mind you praying for me. I want to know the contents of the prayer. Well, I think we prayed that God would make himself known to you. I think that's one of the things we prayed for you. Ashley says, I think behind the paywall is very fair. I would sign up for that. I see the value in it. Well, thanks, Ashley. Yeah, it was a men's retreat we had with our church guys, and we had some moments of prayer, and praise, and so we prayed for folks that we are interacting with, that are believers, unbelievers. Yeah, it's all out of love, man. Oscar Jones says, I love the paywall idea. I'd actually increase my patron contribution for that additional content. Wow. Big Bear is nice. I really dislike driving up and down the mountain road, though. You're correct. We went through the back way, so it was chill. So yeah, I mean the idea there, Ashley, was that I would just make that available to the $5 and up. So it'd be for everyone. Well, that shows that Christians love you, Jerome. And it actually shows that Christians care about the folks that they're speaking to about this stuff. Rather than it just being like an intellectual sort of exercise. For me, it's always been important to distinguish between like we're having an intellectual sort of exercise, or are we really going to get to the nitty gritties of life as well? Cody says he likes the stream that we had at camp. By the way, if you watch the stream I had with the guys at camp, now that was like rinky dink. By the way, we used this. That was on my phone. No equipment up there other than a tripod, my phone, and this mic. This mic works pretty good, man. For a little tiny thing, it does well. And you just hook it up to the back of your, it's wireless. You hook it up to the back of your phone, and then you're good to go. It also has a charger port, so you don't run out of charge on your phone. For those of you guys who like that, drop a 1 in the comment section, because I've gotten feedback from that, and some people like it quite a bit. And maybe we can do that more with the guys. We probably wouldn't be able to do it here where I am. But again, we can just set it up on my phone and then do it like this and somewhere. And it would be well. So drop a 1 in the comments if you've watched that and you actually enjoyed that. Same phrasing as well. Well, yeah, I mean, if we got like biblical arguments for it, it's going to be the same phrasing. It's not going to change. Here we go. We got hey, those of you guys who are on the stream who might be in here. Pay attention to who's putting down what comment. What is that mic? I wonder if I have that. I might have it in my equipment thing. Let me see. I don't. My wife bought it for me. There's a bunch of different ones of them, but if you go on Amazon and you type in like iPhone wireless mic, it's gonna come up. Yeah, it's like now they're selling them. I think this is the one here. I'll drop this. It's very cheap, by the way. Some of them are like you get two of them. I wonder if you can use two of them. At the same time. If that's the case, I might want to buy two of them. So, I'll just drop you a link to like a bunch of the different ones. The one I have is like a $25 one, I think. One that says Amazon's Choice. Wow, there's a $170 something one. That's probably two of them. But once we get the funding going on, there's a specific mic that I would like to purchase. So it's actually a Rode mic. It's really good. It's a wireless Rode mic. Yeah, I wouldn't argue that, by the way. The way you're arguing for this, that it's not in God's will. You're using will there in a incorrect way, in my opinion. Well, I'm not one of these atheists, but many of us hate the fact that you pray for us because they believe that you are only doing so for, I don't get the ECT damage control. That's a good question, Saad. I don't know what he means better. Many of us hate the fact that you pray for us because they believe that. I'd like that qualified. That's weird to me. Basically, I don't want this non-believer to go to hell, so I will pray to try to change that outcome or something to a similar effect. Yeah, I got the same question Saad does here. ECT, Eternal Conscious Torment. Man, you guys got all sorts of crazy abbreviations. I'm very interested in this conversation here. Well, that's not necessarily bad, but those who don't like it will just view these prayers as bowing down to an unfair moral system. I'm lost, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. Like the way I would say it is, it's so simple to me that if I care about you, then I do certain things based on that. It's not like manipulative or anything like that. It's like, dude, like I pray for my family. I pray for my children. I'm not trying to, um, do anything. I don't know, like in a negative sense. Like if I pray for my kids, yeah. So yeah, I know you guys didn't. What I made a reference to is like you guys actually know the references. Hey Arthur, have you ever witnessed something that could only be explained as a miracle? That's a good question. I don't think so. Hang on. Could be having a lapse here in memory or something. Have I personally witnessed something that could only be like? Are you talking about like healings and things of that sort? Actually, like what? What I would say is that I've had experiences where I would say the only logical conclusion could be some kind of a supernatural experience. Not very sure whether I would say it's a miracle. Maybe I have a narrow definition of a miracle or something. Yeah, I don't. If I'm going to use a very narrow definition, personally, me, I don't think I have. Happy the revelation exists because writing out eternal conscious torment every time would be reading. Okay, correct. I think what Jerome is trying to say or convey is that Christians seem to have a problem with God putting people in hell, despite his being fine with it. Apparently, something I I don't have a problem with it. I'll frankly tell you that. Um, I think God is just in putting people to hell. I think if people are going to reject him, they're going to go to hell. Um, I don't think God desires it. This is why I said I wouldn't use the way you use the word will, is because I think will sometimes can be interchangeably with God's desire, as opposed to like him actually willing to do X, Y, and Z. So, yeah, I just generally for me, it's God is just and loving at the same time. That doesn't in any way negate me caring for folks and not wanting them to go there. I mean, it could be very well said, like when it comes to my kids, like I have certain desires for my children. I would want my children to grow up and be decent human beings and X, Y, and Z. But if my children grow up, and I might pray for that and all that, and if my children grow up and are not, they're just like, let's just say, very rude and obnoxious individuals because they chose to develop in that way, they chose to live that way, then that they're going to get the consequences of those sorts of actions. And I would love them regardless, and I would still want them to change, but I wouldn't validate their behavior in any way. I know. Give the man credit, bro. He essentially very clearly communicated what you were trying to. He knows you well. Yeah, I think generally Christian theology has an answer for this, and I would base it on natural revelation. I would say I don't know the answer to this in the sense of like individuals, but the way I would argue, Buck, is to say that God will judge people in accordance to what they are, what they know, and we can make an argument based on Romans chapter 1 that, at the very least, the most general things about God can be known, and people will be judged based on the most general about him, general stuff about him being known. But obviously, there are folks within Christian theology who would disagree with me, who would answer this differently depending on their view of election and stuff like that. So I'm communicating my perspective, but there are other perspectives out there. So I would say, to answer that question, I don't think I can make like a general statement in the sense of like all folks who never heard about the Christian God will go to hell, or all people who believe, who don't believe, who are never exposed to the Christian God will not go to hell. So I wouldn't. I would say God will judge that individually based on how they reacted to what general revelation was. See, this is why I don't think I'll become a Christian. Despite all these prayers for me, I'd fully have to have my moral intuitions changed in such a way to make me think that eternal conscience torment is just. Is eternal conscience torment the thing that's actually holding you back from becoming a Christian, Jerome? The reason why I ask is because I'm sure you're familiar that there are Christians who don't believe in eternal conscience torment. See, normally hearing you justify eternal conscious torment would make your fall down my favorability list. But every Christian on my top 10 list thinks that eternal conscious torment is just, so it doesn't matter. Oh man. I'm just saying, look, I'm actually like pretty open to some form of annihilationism. Um, I, Theoretically speaking, I'm just not very sure whether the Bible teaches it or not. But I know individuals that would argue for it, and I have friends that believe in some form of annihilationism, maybe like a limited hell and then stop existing, or even just annihilationism right afterwards. Um, but yeah, yeah, Chris Date is one that is an annihilationist. Maybe I should have him on my channel. We were talking actually. Some of us guys were talking about having Chris Date on. Yeah, I've seen him go on plenty of different podcasts. So, aren't Jehovah's Witnesses annihilationists? Jehovah's Witnesses are annihilationists. That's true. Well, I think that it's a significant push factor when you consider the idea that for most of Christian history, that has been prevailing view of afterlife. Correct. I mean, some arguments are made with some church fathers not believing it or having some other view of it, something like that. There are arguments out there, is what I'm trying to say. But a plain view of the Bible seems to lean in the direction of eternal conscious torment being true. I can't lie. I'm just saying, like, if that's the thing that's holding you back, for me, that wouldn't be an issue. I think you can be a fine Christian and not believe in eternal constant torment, even if I would disagree with the conclusions. That would be an in-house discussion amongst Christians. Yeah, I wouldn't say that's an essential, because even annihilationism would mean that it's an eternal sort of punishment. So the agreement would be like it's eternal. So yeah. Isn't Ashley nice? I can send out an email if you'd like. Not that you need help, but my assistant skills are kicking in. I'll reach out to you, Ashley. I got a list of folks that I gotta confirm for sure, and then we'll reach out. So what can God do to get someone like Jerome to believe without violating free will? That's a so again, Christians are going to answer this differently. Obviously, I'm very sure that you're familiar with this. When it comes to, sorry, hang on, let me go back. I mean, real moral truths or standards, if morality is subjective, we can't really make valid judgments on whether eternal, something like ECT or any form of justice on God's part is good. Reject the real concept. But if God is a moral agent, I don't see how your moral theory is objective either. So what can God do to get someone like Jerome? So I would say God could reveal himself more. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's my personal theological view, folks are going to be left in regards to how they respond to God's revelation of them. And if they reject it, then that's on them. That's their rejection. Now, I'm not reformed, so I don't speak about election in that sense. But the Calvinists would respond by saying that he can just save you, and that would essentially violate your free will. But they don't have an issue with that. So yeah, if you have a backup to that, maybe I didn't do such a good job of answering that. I'm not sure. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean here? I don't see how your moral theory is objective either. Remember that it's not really just ECT that is the issue here. It's the idea that you get rewarded for believing a set of propositions about claimed historical events are true and vice versa. And certain Christians even believe that you have to believe correct aspects of theology apart from the nature and abilities of Jesus. Catholic versus Protestant debates seem so odd to me. Well, they're odd to you because I don't think those are actually salvation issues. Um, it could be that the people that are phrasing it a certain way. Um, I'm not very sure whether I would articulate this the way you're articulating it. That it's a set of propositions. I mean, very clearly the Bible says that you believe that God exists. So do demons, and they shudder at his name. So the question here is beyond just believing a set of propositions. And if you're thinking belief in the sense of just a set of propositions, then I would say that's not the biblical accounting of this. There's a lot more to it that goes into it in regards to the relationship, in regards to being actually what Christians would term or say is saved, this concept. But it's not just believing a set of historical propositions and then therefore like you're rewarded for that. You're not rewarded for believing a set of propositions. In Christian theology, it's very clearly the case that it is all through Jesus. It is all because of Jesus. It is all for Jesus. It is his doing. It is for his glory. It is all of that that goes with that. Arthur doesn't get rewarded because I got something right by my own abilities or something like that. Um, I don't believe the common apologist view like those stated by Turek about morality are credible, objective moral truths, or whatever. The question is whether morality is set in objective moral sense or whether it is not. It is subjective, and subjective here meaning it is based on our culture, it is based on our own personal whims or feelings or whatever, as opposed to it being based in some other greater standard. I don't know why you're so caught up on the wave Turek. Let's just put Frank Turek aside. Okay? See Assad. Put Frank Turek aside for a second. Like, please, let's just try to the best of our abilities not to argue against Frank Turek. He's not here. He can't defend himself. So, trying to pull something up here, by the way. I use Turek because he's the one who I always hear phrase morality like this. I hear this strange view of morality used everywhere in apologetic spaces. Literally, all members of my list use it. Okay, so name me a philosopher. Okay. Name me a philosopher who is Christian or non Christian, doesn't matter to me, who doesn't think about morality in these in regards to this terminology. I want to know what other terminology you're thinking about, and we'll deal with it. By the way, if you're not interested in using words like objective and subjective morality, we can use words like realism, anti-realism, whatever. Like if you want to use that sort of philosophical language. Every consequentialist. Okay, cool, cool. Like, let's speak about that. But what does it bring to you at the end of the day? Where does it land you? Is the question, right? If we use everyday language to explain some of this stuff, I mean that's completely fine. I don't think you would disagree with that, Jerome. Correct. Now you're using look. You're talking about normative ethics, but that's a bit different when we're talking about moral objectivity and subjectivity or whatever, however you, realism, anti-realism, however you want to phrase it. If you're talking about consequentialism or virtue ethics or natural law ethics or something like that's fine. We can do that. And I tend to think I tend to hold to natural law. Not all Christians do. Some Christians are virtue ethicists. They believe in virtue ethics. Not very sure how many Christians there are who are utilitarians. But I tend to be a utilitarian when it comes to things like war. I mean, I can use utilitarian arguments to make decisions, like especially in politics, maybe even business sometimes. Um, but that doesn't mean, right? Like, I would reject a source of, say, moral standards. What the atheist is forced to do at the end of the day is think about morality in the sense of um, it being reliant on the context almost always. Well, yeah, I think Kantian morality actually doesn't work, but that's fine. It doesn't matter to me whether a moral realist might think where I would land and how I would agree or disagree with them. That's cool. It's like I think developing this stuff on a purely naturalistic ability doesn't get you very far. Like, we're gonna rationalize ourselves to this thing. It's like, no, you can like, I think historically it's been proven that uh, like a pure rationality of sorts, uh, argued with um, some kind of an evolutionary morality or ethic, lands you in places like genocide. Jerome, who would be the person that would how how do you go from morality to genocide? So I'll give you an argument in regards to like some German philosophers made arguments in regards to evolution, and how they landed on um, Ashley, I'm gonna. Yeah, so if you want proper terminology, I'll say like social Darwinism or something like that. But you get the point. The argument there being ev- morality is developed all throughout evolutionary process. But if you add that with there are better and lesser kinds of species or more people fit to um, people who are more fit for existence, right? So why would it be wrong to get rid of the weak, the less powerful, the ones that could genetically mess us up? Do you understand what I'm going with here? Well, that's the Bucks question, by the way. Well, relativism is even more confusing than that. Relativism says that there are true moral facts, but they're relative to different contexts and cultures. That's a certain form of relativism. Correct. Got to go to family fun night at my daughter's preschool. I got to go to family fun night. That's a thing. Okay. At my daughter's preschool. Y'all have a good one. It's been fun. I'd actually like to stick around for the moral talk. Hey, it's been great having you, man. Appreciate it. I don't care whether someone after 1950 argues for this. Like I said earlier on, Jerome, it's out of you realize why someone after 1950 wouldn't argue for this. Because historically, it's been proven to be like the most stupidest thing on the planet to even argue for that. Because we actually put it into practice. And there could be plenty of people that believe it, but are terrified to talk about it. Or to at least talk about it publicly or write books about it. But they still believe it. Because you know what kind of a response they would get. It's way too recent for them to come out and say, yes, by the way, there are better races. By the way, but actually, as a matter of fact, I should argue that there was an article that came out maybe a little bit of ago, like I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years ago. I think, oh man, I forget. Let me pull it up. They actually changed the title of this article. It's so dirty. I'm smelling barbecue. I don't know why. I want to look at stuff about this. Okay, what up? So this was CBS News did this article. Let's see. Let's try to pull this up. Okay. Talking about Down syndromes disappearing in Iceland, whatever, right? And essentially, the way this is going is abortion, right? That's the direction they took this in. Ads. Too many ads. This is the article. Now, folks in Iceland have responded to this. A bunch of folks have responded to this. But let's just suppose, for argument's sake, that this is fully, completely the case. Some people would argue back that it's not fully, completely the case. But let's just suppose it is. What's wrong with it? I'm arguably being nice to you because pre-Enlightenment people had less rights and moral theories were less developed and scarcely put into practice. The foundations for moral theory in regards to human rights, freedom, and all that stuff, I think are pretty consistently biblical, pretty well developed in the Middle Ages. And it's not just the Enlightenment was just a time where this stuff came to fruition. Now, was there a secularization of this? Yeah, to a certain extent there was. Having worse moral theories and treating people worse are two different things. Actually, I think there's good moral theories that are developed in Aquinas that didn't lead to people treating each other better. You think people actually treat each other good? Like globally speaking today? Or do we just not talk about it? Because I think generally in the Western world, it's pretty good. You and I have it pretty good. But let's talk about this in a very, very simple way. How many people are out there talking about what's happening to the Armenians of Artsakh right now who are being blockaded, starved, because it's not politically advantageous? All these very enlightened secularists. How much conversation is happening about Ukraine? Do you think the conversation happening about Ukraine is actually the reason why people are doing it is because they're morally, I don't know, upright and all this really good, awesome stuff? So, Jerome, see, these are the sorts of stuff you say and other atheists say that I tell them you need to learn hermeneutics. This is the sort of stuff you guys fall back into, and you shouldn't. The 10 Commandments are not meant to be moral laws in a general humanity sort of moral laws. They're just not. They include them, but there's a lot more going on in regards to the 10 Commandments, in regards to the society, theocracy, all that stuff, that you're just completely ignoring because you want to make a statement. And that's just, your comment is pretty trashy, I would say. But answer me that question. What's wrong with eradicating Down syndrome by aborting all the kids with Down syndrome? Wait, hang on. This is the best time to live. According to what? You, my guy. In a split second, this world can go to hell and be way worse than it's ever been. It's really nice for you and I to sit here. I don't know where you are, by the way. You're in England or wherever you may be right now. But it's really nice for us to sit here and make these comments because we're not the ones who are afraid that our daughter is going to get acid thrown in her face because she rejected someone's marriage. We're not the ones that are in parts of the world where ethnic cleansing is happening on a day-to-day basis. You and I are not the ones, like I said, sitting in Artsakh, historic Armenian lands, where Azerbaijani military activists have blockaded and are starving our children, and very clearly being led by a dictatorial government. Because morality is not even a part of that conversation. And then our moral governments don't even care, our so-called moral governments. That's immoral, by the way. Not caring about a dictator doing that, but being up in all arms around what's happening in the Ukraine. Because it's politically more advantageous. It makes a lot more sense. Rather than focusing on the dictator that is been handed the reins of the government from his dad. But nobody's going to make an issue of that. The world is not as nice as you think it is. If in my opinion, and I think it's pretty evident, if we didn't have the sort of legal system of punishing people, there's plenty of people that would love to beat me up and shut me up. There might be plenty of people that would want to beat you up and shut you up. Not like, oh, they're such... We've advanced so much where everybody just obeys these moral commands or something like that. That's just not the case. It was never meant to be a law for you to take into and apply into your society. That's what my argument is. I would say this is largely because of capitalism rather than because of an advancement in ethics and morality. That people's lives are generally better. It's because of economic circumstances. I wouldn't disagree with this, by the way. I wouldn't disagree that we live in a really, really good time. What I'm saying is that we tend to ignore the atrocities that are extremely recent, that people don't even pay attention to. These highly advanced secularists just don't care about. I don't need to think it's extremely good or argue that it's the best time to live in. I don't, like I said, I don't disagree with you. You can't think that if you pick a country and go back 100 years, that it would be better. Well, depending what we mean by better there. That's serious about that, by the way. if you mean in regards to, I don't know, life expectancy, okay. Um, but what about other factors, like not being afraid that you're going to get robbed or something like that, like in your home? Well, if the Ten Commandments don't matter here, what does? What contributions to world building did Christianity perform? Like, seriously, that you actually have to ask that question means that you haven't really paid attention to world history. I genuinely mean that, like in an intellectually honest way. Man, I'm feeling my hunger kicking in. Guys, I want to test something. Here's a good one: children being made in the image of God and not being property. Or women. Think Greco-Roman world. That is a world building ethic that Christianity provided the Roman world. Children being put out under statues to die. And Christians saying this is wrong, you shouldn't do this. Image of God stuff, man. This is, you don't need to be a Christian to realize this. There's plenty of atheists out there that realize that this was a great Christian contribution to the way civilizations developed and functioned in regards to being made in the image of God, and therefore all should be treated equally because they're made in the image of God. By the way, human rights was not even a thing. It was not even a term till very recently when they secularized it. The term was natural rights. And there's a reason it was natural rights, because natural rights are founded in natural law. Jerome, see how you're copping out of this? I've heard enough about how Christians were the ones to advance rights. But I don't care for such statements when remember that the world was just majority Christian. As a matter of fact, it wasn't when Christians were doing these things. It was the minority of minorities. That's a cop out, man. Roman women, specific Roman women, had status rich Roman women had status. And what was their conclusion in moral philosophy? They were doing it. And what were the results? How was that impacting everything? Was that developing a society where everybody was equal? Or was that developing societies in when Athenian Greeks were better, or Greeks were better, or Spartans were better? I know they were doing that. I've read them. Aristotle argued that there's a vast majority of society should be slaves. You agree with his moral philosophy? Virtue ethics, by the way. Aristotle, founder of virtue ethics. Aristotle argued that a whole portion of society should just be slaves. They should just work. They shouldn't get out of their class. That's their lot in life. And leading and ruling should be left to who? The philosopher kings. Immediate classicism in Aristotle, arguably one of the best philosophers of all time. Were Greek women allowed to participate in the democratic process? Why or why not? How come their moral philosophy didn't solve this issue? Was slavery eradicated in that great development of philosophical thought? It wasn't. Not arguing for the fact that moral development and ethics was not a thing throughout history, but the foundations of these things became the basis for them to do X, Y, and Z. How come we didn't get all that stuff in the Greco-Roman world? Jesus did say, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. That was a new concept. I think all men being equal is specific to the Declaration of Independence. Yeah, but what does it say? Endowed by their creator, given to them by their creator. They have to establish it in God. I don't agree with that, though. I mentioned them to make a point about doing historical argumentation in support of ethical principles. I don't care about how much influence you had. By doing what, Jerome? Are they arguing for slavery because they're saying, oh, by the way, the Bible teaches that people are made in the image of God, and therefore we're going to enslave them? Is that what they were arguing? Or were they misunderstanding particular texts? I'm talking about the Christian ones who were arguing for slavery, by the way. So, which wasn't a great many, but let's just say, we're talking like America and stuff like that. Or there were arguments where, oh, they're cursed, misunderstanding of a biblical passage. So it's a misinterpretation, misapplication, it's wrong. And their counter arguments were coming from Christians who were saying, no, people are made in the image of God, and no, that's not what's going on with Noah and his sons. You guys don't have a right to do this. Were the early Christians doing this? The fact that we have North African church fathers who've influenced theology like Augustine and Athanasius. To me, it doesn't matter whether Christians did X, Y, and Z. To me, it's whether the Christians doing X, Y, and Z had biblical grounds to do X, Y, and Z, and whether their argumentation was coming from biblical grounds. Clearly, I think you and I can agree that Christians can be wrong and do really stupid things. I think that's pretty clear. My thing would be they're doing stupid things because it violates the very basis of what they believe in. So they're being internally inconsistent. That would be an internal critique of that I would have of them. My question would be, what would your critique be? They're wrong because why? You're British, dude. You should know William Wilberforce very well and his argumentation and where that came from. Correct. And I would say they were wrong. What's the opposite is my question. It's like, cool, you're coming at me, which is fair. What's the opposite of this? Like, what can you provide that is not like this? As a matter of fact, I can give you a bunch of internal reasons as to why this is the case. People are sinners. People are wrong. People are fallible. Like internally, I can give you all the reasons why Christians did these things, whether it was theology, whatever it may be. They shouldn't have fought over things, but they did, and they were wrong about it. Internally, I could argue for that. My question is, how can you argue against it externally? And what's the better thing you can provide in its place? That is not the reason why we don't do that. And there's plenty of societies in the world that do this still. That's a major leap you're doing there, by the way. And this is why we don't base societies. Which societies? Is England not based on divine authority? Freaking have a king that is said to be placed there by God. Albeit, I don't think the king is very powerful. Are we talking about Iran or Saudi Arabia? Half of England is owned by the Qataris, my friend. Do they not believe in that? And those societies are bad? Really? So why hand over half the country to them? I think the recent World Cup was a really good example of this sort of stuff, these sorts of clashes. And you know what the West, secularist West did? They bowed. That's what they did. They bowed to the pressure. Do you notice how all that stuff just went away? All the LGBTQ kind of, oh no, freedom in these, it just disappeared. Why? That's why. Money was on the line. Do you notice how all those players shut their mouths and played? We're not going to play. Even the Germans, they didn't play very well, but they played. These were secular, highly advanced societies that we accept everyone and we do this and we do that and X, Y, and Z and whatever. Just goes away very quickly. It wasn't shocking, Jerome. It was not shocking. I was not shocked. Right? I wasn't shocked by this because I know that's exactly where it's going to lead to. The secularists can only do this when they've come out of a Christian basis where people argue for their freedom to disagree and they don't kill you for disagreeing. And then they go to different places in the world where people don't have that basis, where they don't argue you're made in the image of God, where they don't, frankly, they don't give a damn. And then the secularists are shocked of how this stuff wasn't accepted. Oh, I'm not saying the world has become worse, by the way. I'm not arguing for the world becoming worse. I said earlier on, I agree, the world is a much better place. Yeah, and why did we expect that? Because it's all going to come down to power, money. That's all it's going to come down to. And that's essentially what happened. It's like, why is that wrong? So what? FIFA wanted to make tons of money and it was just beneficial. Did you see how quickly this wear Pride Month, wear bands and shoes with rainbow flag, like all that stuff flies in England and America. Any one of these players signs a contract and goes overseas, starts talking about how we don't want to disrespect their society and they have their own views of things. And we're just going to be okay with that. If someone comes out and says they're gay, they're going to punish them. And they're going to do this to them. And they're going to do that to them. But we're not going to speak against it because it's their society. Because they don't have the moral umph grounding to say that stuff. I know that. I'm confused as to what you're saying here, by the way. Just, are you telling me to read an entire ethics book, or are you saying you read an entire ethics book? I've read many entire ethics books. Not going to even respond to this statement. Because clearly, if you're serious about this, then I don't know what to say about that. My stomach hurts. Guys, I want to play a video and make sure the audio is coming through for you guys. If that is okay. Is it okay? And I'm going to play this video for Jerome. Let's see. This is a cool way of me making sure everything is working the way it should be. You're a good guy, Arthur. Your heart is in the right place. I appreciate it, Buck. I try to be. Jerome, have more respect for me than this, please. Can't just pick any random ethics book in the philosophy section in the library and find good arguments against whatever FIFA we're doing. Brother, if I turn around back there, I'll pick out anything from Mill to Aristotle to Kant to whomever you want to name. Those guys are all back there behind me. Okay, let's see if this is working. For you, Jerome. Tell me if the audio is coming through well.
Pick up on Lewis. Have you got a game in mind where you think you might be ready, or and do you think it'd be possible for him to have the kind of impact that he had last season when he arrived, like that sort of?
It's a different situation to last season. He came here from played all the games for Porto pretty much, and now he's out for an injury for the second time pretty much. I can tell you the 2 sessions he had with us in Dubai in a training camp, it was like, oh my God, how good is that? And then he was injured again. So when he's back, he will be really good and very impactful. Of course, that's clear. How quick, I don't know. We have to see. That's the big challenge in these moments. There's no time for being patient, but you have to be patient. Well, that's it. And so we will see. But yeah, I'm positive about him that he will. There's a good chance to have a real impact in like 10, 11, 12 games, maybe. Well, let's see how long it exactly takes. I think it's estimated maybe warming up next week with the team, stuff like this, and then maybe a week later being in team training. That would be cool. But you always have to.
I love the way Klopp says cool. I love the way he says cool. I can't replicate it. That would be cool. It's like an Arnold vibe. Schwarzenegger, that is. Guys, it's so crazy the amount of time it took me to figure out what was wrong with this audio, and it was literally a click. Oh, that interview was today. This interview was 43 minutes ago. That was, at least it was put out on This Is Anfield. So Luis Diaz could come back. So oh man, I can't wait. Such a good player. Um, I'm gonna have hope till the last second, man. Sometimes I have very irrational hope when it comes to sports. I want to remember. I think I shaved fully. There might actually be a video I have when I'm fully shaved. It might have been last year. Was the last time was early last year or November of the previous year, where I just had a moment of madness and shaved my beard off. Let's see. Go live. So 2021 December. I think it might have been November, October. Nope. Nope. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Can't find it. That's like I'm looking at 2021, 2020. No, I was in Armenia. Can't find when the last time I was that I shaved. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily. I wouldn't disagree with this. I think that people can overcome all sorts of issues on their own. They don't need God or higher power or whatever. The problem is that secularists in the West haven't really lived in secular societies to the truest sense. They don't know what they're asking for, and that would be a critique, it's like a cultural critique. Wait, you need. This is not a fair critique of the Crusades. Let me ask you a question: are you for or against what's going on in the Ukraine? Are you with the Ukrainians or are you with the Russians? I don't know, man. I don't know how that happened. No, I think to overgeneralize what happened in the Crusades is not historically accurate. There are many crusades, and the crusades happen over hundreds of years, and not all the crusades have the same exact motivation. Ukraine all day. You don't like that the Ukrainians got their home invaded. So you like the fact that, and I haven't said my opinion on this, you like the fact that the West thinks they can just go and put bases on the borders of a country, essentially threatening them. What would happen if Russia did that to the United States? I think I mentioned this yesterday. If they started just putting bases in Canada and Mexico. What would happen if they did that with England? let's just say Scotland was with the Russians and the Russians started putting bases in Scotland. And the British invaded Scotland as a result. What the reason, by the way, I'm not saying this so that we go back and forth on who we're for. The reason why I'm saying it is because war is very complicated most of the time. And the Crusades were very complicated. Especially the First Crusade. In regards to it being a defensive, the Muslims were invading the Byzantine Empire, and the Byzantine Empire asked their friends in the West, or asked their Christian brothers in the West, to come and help them because they were being invaded. The First Crusade, as a matter of fact, you can read the speech of the Pope who was calling for the First Crusade and what his argumentation for it was. It's very important for us to do first source, original sources, instead of just like what people have said. AJ says I would have grown up Muslim if it wasn't for the Crusades. My book. Okay. Whatnot. I'm tired, man. Jerome got me all tired. It's good. That was a good conversation. Thank you for that. By the way, guys, I'm gonna put out something on that Ecclesiastes study, and because I want to start it next week. I gotta pick a date. Starting it in March would be nice, and then I'll make all the proper. Well, tomorrow is March. Yeah, I think I'll do like a week of advertisement, and then folks can jump in. So we're for sure going to do that. I think today it was established that we're going to do that behind a paywall, which means jump on and become a... What is going on? Become a patron if you're interested in that. So that will just be $5 and up. We'll have a Zoom link, which we'll jump into, and then we'll have a study through Ecclesiastes. And yeah, I mean, that's a book I've taught through before, but I'm excited to jump into it and study it some more. And then I'm also working on doing a live e-course on genres of the Bible. I'll make the announcement for that as well. That'll be a separate thing that people can purchase and then jump into those classes. So there's a number of things that we're working on. One of them definitely will start next week. Okay. Cool. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Appreciate it. It's been a blast. And I will see you guys tomorrow night, which is March 1st. Tomorrow night for our live reaction videos. If you have any videos that you want me to react to, now that we got everything working, please email it to me at info@apologiacenter.com. We'd appreciate it. And Jerome says, leave you with a nice thought. Just to make sure I leave you with a good thought. I do think that Christians had a lot of good influence on modern history in regards to ethics. I hope you know that. I don't mind conceding. Appreciate that, Jerome. Thank you. Again, I always love these discussions. Whenever I get fired up, by the way, again, this is just a personality thing for people to learn about me. That's because I care about this stuff. That's why I get fired up. I hope that the individuals standing in front of me having these discussions care about these conversations to get fired up as well. It is not because it's coming from like anger or anything like that. I blame it a little bit to me being genetically Armenian as well. So yeah, or culturally Armenian as well too. It's just I do this in my family. When me and my wife get into arguments, that's the way it looks like. So yeah, with all that said, really fun stuff coming up. I'll probably be posting it on my Instagram. Please go follow me on Instagram if you don't follow me on Instagram. I post quite a bit of stuff there, and just info in regards to what's going on. And yep, all good. 5 a.m. is too late for me. Wow. Yeah, well, I can't please everyone all the time. It's virtually impossible. But always appreciate having you in here, Jerome. You make things really exciting and fun. Well, guys, God bless you, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.